first and foremost, star we missed out on the news from last week. Had some scheduling stuff, some technical difficulties. So just to recap from way back from where all of this started from, giant robot, whatever the internet outlet was that broke the story that Letitia Wright, that she didn't want to assume her or reassume her role in the MCU going forward because of the vaccine mandate that Disney now has.
And that kind of caused some of the things.
Where it
some
ended
of the
up.
things.
Yeah. So with that, in terms of the COVID stuff, man, I never really know how to judge it because every time that they come out and say something about her in regards to the COVID stuff, almost immediately there's another story trying to dampen it.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's Disney, right? Like the first story is probably organic. The second one is cleanup. It's the way it feels, right? Obviously, I don't know. I don't have any insiders or anything like that. But they talked about her not wanting to come back. And then a few days later, they come back and, oh, well, it's just drummed up. It's just you know, the scoopers and the leakers. And they're trying to talk about this black woman and get her fired over her views and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, which one is it? You know? And it keeps coming back up. So in terms of Letitia Wright being Shuri, it has never been a thing for me to want her removed as Shuri. It's never been a thing for me for not to have Shuri be the next Black Panther. Has never been an issue for me. I don't take joy in seeing a black woman potentially lose her role in the MCU, even if that ultimately ended up in getting me what I do want, which is T'Challa to still be in the main MCU. Even from that standpoint, I kind of want to separate it because it's like, yeah, she's going through whatever she's going through, and obviously she's got to make a decision for herself. But she and her role in the MCU does not or has not ever had any bearing on why I feel the way I feel about the character of T'Challa, if that makes sense. So I hope she figures it out. The only thing potentially it could do is to end up canceling the movie.
Mm-hmm.
In which case, I wouldn't necessarily want her to lose her job for that to happen. If it happens, it happens. You know what I'm saying? I don't have no control over that. But that is probably the only through line there is that if this thing gets so contentious that they literally can't move forward and the film gets canceled, which retrospectively would probably help my cause, but it's not something that I'm rooting for. So then that leads us into a broader conversation again about recasting T'Challa. Recasting T'Challa was trending on Twitter a lot last week. It trended first off the heels of the Letitia Wright report.
Okay.
About her maybe not being in the MCU going forward.
Mm-hmm.
Then TMZ reaches out to Derrick Boseman.
Good
right?
move.
Because as you've seen, if you follow us here or on Twitter, if you follow guys like Theo B or E-Man or a lot of people at King T'Challa have talked about this video. Been here. Been a huge proponent. We've been talking about this.
Yeah.
Been talking about this. We talked about this back when we interviewed E-Man back last March.
Like, everybody has known within the community that the family
that this
wholly
has been
supports.
A thing. We have been screaming at the top of our lungs this whole time that this is what it is. You're saying you're respecting him, but literally here's his family. Him, the person you claim to be respecting, him right here. He said it. So TMZ literally reaches out to the guy, has a conversation with him, and he says flat out he believes he would have wanted the role to be recast. And that's not the first time we've heard that either. Roland Martin said the same exact thing. He hadn't told anybody explicitly, look, make sure they recast T'Challa when I pass or if I pass.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm to believe you and that you are trying to do the most respectful thing for Chadwick Boseman, which I'm going to just be honest, I don't believe that because nothing I've seen so far shows that. But if I'm to believe that, then are you also going to tell me that what you deem respectful for Chadwick is more important than what his family does?
The people who are closest to him?
That's where y'all at now? So first it was, oh, y'all just don't want Shuri. No, I just got done telling you. I hope Letitia Wright keeps her job and ends up being the next Black Panther. Oh, well, it's disrespectful to Chadwick and his legacy. It's disrespectful to the people that knew him. I'm talking to you, Mastertainment. It's disrespectful to the people that knew him. It's disrespectful to his family. It's only been like a year. His brother wants the role recast. So now where we at? Are we at the point where y'all are going to sit up here and say, and just come out and say it, that you believe in Disney and Marvel and Kevin Feige and Nate Moore and Ryan Coogler, even if that means going against Chadwick Boseman's family? Say that. You trust them enough that you would be willing to ignore the wishes of this man's blood relative. You love Chadwick so much, so dearly, that you would ignore the words of his blood relative and instead trust Kevin Feige and Nate Moore. Is that where we at? Now I will say this. There's a wave. There's a wave. Van Lathan 2 weeks ago, when he interviewed Nate Moore, allowed Nate Moore to get off all that shit without ever saying well, you know what? I didn't listen to the whole thing, but the segment I listened to where Ryan Moore was rocking about why T'Challa was not going to be recast, he let him get it off. He didn't rebuttal. Mm-hmm. Last week, RecastTChalla is trending. Guess who team RecastTChalla now? Jamel Hill has been in interviews with members of the cast and asked about recasting the role of T'Challa.
Charlemagne was on The Breakfast Club talking about it should be done.
Charla, where you at, boy?
Yeah, salute to my South Carolina brethren, Chadwick Boseman. Rest in peace to him. But why is this a conversation? Of course you recast it. You're just going to get rid of T'Challa in the Marvel Universe? That makes zero sense.
Y'all came out very early. And said the right things. We gained esteem now. Continue to say them. And the fact that it's getting to national platforms like TMZ or the New York Post. New York Post picked it up last week. Mm-hmm. This is not something that they're just going to be able to ignore. Because again, it's an impossible expectation to have this movie do better than the first at this point.
Yeah.
Because of the criticism that we've already taken, because of COVID, because of Chadwick's passing, because of your decision not to recast the character. It would be such a statistical aberration for this film to outperform the first one, given all of the hurdles that are currently in front of it. At this point, if something with Letitia Wright can't be reconciled, your only choice is to postpone indefinitely. It doesn't make it. There's nothing else that could possibly come of that, which is going to be a bad thing. It's just a bad thing. That's hundreds of, maybe even thousands of employees without a job to finish, laid off indefinitely. Right, not just the actors, the set people,
the cast and crew,
the sound, the whole entire cast and crew. So which is mostly comprised of black people. That's a beautiful thing. So it's not a cheering moment if this film gets delayed or if it gets canceled. It's not a gleeful moment, because even then they could cancel it, let all of this stuff die down, think we forget about it, and try to run the same tired ass playbook out there next time and just try it all again. This is not about torpedoing Letitia Wright's career. This is not about not having a black woman in the role of Black Panther or ruler of Wakanda. This is not about trying to put a stranglehold for black men on these roles in Marvel. I want to see Monica Rambeau. I want to see Aurora Monroe. I want to see Frenzy. I want to see these black female characters that I read about a lot, but that I almost never see on screen. And when they aren't portrayed as the powerhouses, the dynamos that they are. I want to see that, but I also want to see T'Challa. And I don't think I should have to settle for either or. And I don't think I should have to get one at the expense of the other. And that's just where I'm at with it.
I think E-Man did a wonderful job in his interview with TMZ. Obviously, he's been spearheading the movement the entire time. He's the person that started it. And I think there probably isn't anybody better. I mean, he understands what it is that he's fighting for and why he's fighting for it, and understands the criticisms that people may have for it. And, like I said, I just enjoyed seeing him on TMZ being well prepared, being able to answer any and every question that they kind of had about it. Unfortunately, TMZ made the mistake of thinking that this is kind of a recent movement.
Yeah. And so here's what I would say. Here's what I would say about E-Man, and I mostly agree with you. He's the guy that you need at the head, right? Because we all operate on our own platforms. We all do things on our own time in our own way in terms of trying to get T'Challa recast. But to have a voice like him at the head of it, because the one thing, even though I feel like sometimes he can kind of pull his punches, right? Like that is a good example. Like allowing that narrative to be there that, oh, well, this is only coming because people are upset about Letitia Wright. No, man, your petition started a year ago. Tell him that. Mm-hmm. Tell him that. Like, don't allow that to go out there. When you went on All of Nerds and they just started describing all of the followers as kind of the same way they were talking about Bernie supporters in the primary in 2020. Oh, these guys are toxic. Man, look how they get after you online. It's crazy. They're destroying democracy. Like that's that was the narrative building. And I didn't feel that as much. Like, he did a good job of separating himself from it. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't rebuttal all that strong. Now, the other side of the coin of that is that he doesn't turn people off.
Yeah.
People invite him to come on their platforms and speak freely because they don't fear being overrun or overspoken or owned or just to have somebody come on their platform and explode on them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they don't fear that from him. So he gets into these doors, which has been very beneficial to the movement. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Everybody has their role to play, right? We talk forcefully on this platform because there's no access to be lost here, right? Like, Disney not calling us for no interviews anyways. They not sending us no early footage of Loki or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, no shit like that. So we don't have that to lose. So I can speak, or we can speak very bluntly, but that's not his role, right? And if that's not his way to go about it, the best that he can do is to keep getting us into these national conversations, right? We would not be here at this point without him, and vice versa. We would not be here without all the people pushing it underneath that same umbrella.
1,000%.
This is not a movement of one person, right? This is 46,000 strong signed up. And that doesn't even count all the people that are continuously being brought over to the recast side because they were working under a false narrative that Disney was doing what was most respectful, that they were honoring Chadwick and his family by doing this. That was as emphatic of a hell no as you could ever get from the Boseman family. Because coming out and saying it once on some random podcast, all right, that is what it is. After millions of people constantly retweet that video, right? The family's aware. Mm-hmm. And so then if he gets approached again and comes right back out and says the same thing, I'm pretty sure if we haven't heard anybody else from the Boseman family speak, I'm acting under the assumption that he is not only speaking on the behalf of his brother, but the family at large. How do you put yourself on the other side of that? Again, you have plenty of different, concerns with RecastTChalla. Is it too soon? What about the cast and crew? Any of those concerns, which one of them is more important than how the family feels? Y'all lost Chadwick Boseman. They lost him in real life. So don't come over here telling me about, it just wouldn't feel right to see another person in there. That does not and will never supersede what that man's family feels would honor him. Now, I'll be the first one to say that does not mean that Disney has to cave to it. But don't pretend that you're doing something honorable in doing it. You would be going against the wishes of his surviving relatives by doing it. And that's just a fact. That is a FACK fact. Cool. Give us your thoughts in the comments below. RecastTChalla.
And make sure you check out our RecastTChalla playlist if you haven't already. And make sure you subscribe. We like to give updates on pretty much everything RecastTChalla.